Welcome to this episode of North vs. South podcast, where we discuss gaming, TV, films and technology. This week I bought a PS5 by accident. We talk about the Xbox series that has just come out, and how do you connect a Wii to your television with a dolphin?
So Josh, you have got a PS5 for Christmas?
Yes, I did get a PS5. Not for Christmas, but it was just available.
Kind of lucky to get us, but well, you kind of just stumbled upon it, didn't you? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trying to buy a PS5 at the time, but my phone provider, they let you buy stuff and pay them monthly, and they emailed me saying they had them in stock. So I half-heartedly joked about it with the wife later that evening, and she said, "Oh, I wouldn't be upset if you did get one." So I took that as permission, as you would. And unfortunately, by that point, this is like 5-6 hours later, they were all out of stock at this point. So I was like, whatever, we'll get one when we get one. And then, I don't know, this was a couple of days later. But this happened on Thursday, the 23rd of December. Obviously, that's a key date because it's 2 days before Christmas. Not a lot happens on those days in terms of like online shipping and everything like that. But I just Googled PS5 stock. I wasn't expecting anything really. I just thought, I'll see what's going on. And an independent article that was about 24 hours old at this point pointed me towards Currys, a very popular and well-used electronics shop in the UK. And not only did they have a PS5 in stock, I could add it to my basket. Not only could I add it to my basket, I could check out. Now, I had a small issue with PayPal, and PayPal was locked out for some reason, and I still don't know why. But I could still go back, and I managed to input my my credit card, and it took my money, and it gave me a shipping date, and I could choose next day shipping. So on Thursday the 23rd, I got next day shipping of a PS5, and it arrived at 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and my goodness, we were so happy. Now, I did mess up a little bit because I made the mistake of telling my wife instead of wrapping it up and putting it under the Christmas tree. But given that obviously we're not going to be around on Christmas Day, it was better to open it up and do stuff with it on Christmas Eve than Christmas Day. So it kind of worked out for the better anyway. So what I got was a PS5 with Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, and it came with a Logitech Bluetooth wireless headset, which isn't that bad actually, but I've only used it with my iPad for listening to podcasts and stuff. So it was a pretty decent deal.
How much altogether?
600.
Yeah, I saw those deals going on there. I was like, I don't know. You could you not just buy the console by itself and the controller? Like it was like
No, because that was the only bundle they had left in stock. So
yeah.
they Currys would only show you what they had left in stock. I know when I sent the link to you guys, it was still there, and for an hour or two, and that was the only one that was available. But then by 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, I clicked on the link to see if it was there because my wife's brother is kind of in the market for one, and I clicked on the link and it was just taking me to the generic gaming stuff. So they were obviously all out of stock by that point.
The thing is, like for me, I don't know, like 600 quid. Whoa, it's a lot, isn't it? But I suppose you need something to play with it.
Yeah, well that's the thing. You don't want to buy something for like, because what's retail? It's like 450, 500 for the disc version.
Yeah, it's like 450, 449.
Yeah, something like that. And then we've got two games and the headphones. The headphones are supposedly worth 70 quid, and obviously the games are 50 quid a pop. So yeah, maybe it would have been better to get the console on its own and get the games separately, particularly as they came on disc, and I'm not particularly a fan of using any game on disc these days.
Oh,
but
really?
you take what you can get. We want the PS5 in time for Horizon Forbidden West, and this was one way we could do it. And but anyway, like I said, there's nothing worse than having a console and nothing to play on it. When I bought the 360 way back in 2013 or 2014, whenever it was, I bought the 360, but I ordered the first couple of games I was going to play on Amazon, and that was before I had Prime, so it was like 3 to 5 day shipping. It was really sad going onto the Xbox gaming store at that time and like finding all like the free demos and everything, because I didn't want to spend any more money because I just spent 200-300 quid on the console and the games that I had bought. I wanted to do something with it for the 2 or 3 days I was waiting for the new games. So yeah, so that's what I get in the console with the games with it. I'll tell you something. We were so worried because because it was coming from Curry's. Curry's was using DPD, and I know Curry's used DPD because I bought some camera lenses from them before, and DPD don't know where I live. And without going into too much detail, I don't live in a normal area. My house isn't visible from the street. So we have to put detailed instructions on how to get to our house, and DPD just ignore them. So it was very nerve-wracking as to whether it was actually even going to turn up or if it was going to be left outside
In the
the
rain.
house of someone 2 doors down, a very grumpy neighbour who doesn't like receiving our parcels, which is fair, but it's not like we're sending them to his house. They're just ending up there. But thankfully, it was a different DPD driver, and he managed to bring it to the door. He knew what was in it. He was like, "Oh, someone's getting a good Christmas," and I was like, "Yeah, we are." But yeah, it was quite good because because it was DPD, I could see where it was because it was one of those tracking ones where you can see where the van is roughly. So I knew like how far away it was, and I knew it was like I was going to be arriving in the next 10 minutes or so. Very exciting. And then when it arrived, I told Jen, "Oh, I'm not going to get it all out. I'm just going to get the controller out to put it on charge. Then I'll set it all up later." So 5 minutes later, I've got everything out the box, and 10 minutes later, I've got it hooked up. But then it's the age-old thing, isn't it? We've got the living room PC, and we've got one of those IKEA 3x2 metal console things. We already had the Xbox One. We got the 360, the PS3, a Switch, a GameCube, and one of the sections has got a whole load of games in it. So it was like, oh man, where's it going to go? What's going to go? What's going to leave? Where's it going to go? Because the thing is massive. Like,
Yeah.
it's massive. Have you seen one in person
I
now?
haven't seen one in person.
You've not seen one in person, but you know they're massive, don't you?
Yeah.
When you see it in person, it will be even bigger than you think it's going to be. It's just massive. Like, I'm looking at my 22-inch Dell monitors off to the side, and I'm like, I'm sure it's bigger than they are. It's like huge. It's pointlessly huge as well. Thankfully, it does fit in the it fits where it needs to. We haven't stood it up on its side. It's laying down flat, and
Yeah.
it's hidden. You can barely notice it apart from when the light turns on. The PS3 was the one that got evicted because obviously the PS5. Well, I mean, you can play the PS3 games on it. You can't, but you can using the PS3 streaming thing. All the games that I'm going to play from the PS3, I can get off PS Now, so it's not a problem.
Yeah. That's the thing though. But you never owned a PS4 though, did you?
Never had a PS4. No, we got a PlayStation, a PlayStation 2, a PS2, a PlayStation 3, and now a PlayStation 5.
But the thing is, you could go back and like, there's some really good games, and they've upgraded those PS4
Yeah,
games.
well, that's the thing is that basically at this point, all the games for the PS5 are basically PS4 games, and there's like what a dozen PS5 games at the moment.
Yeah.
But most of them are just PS4, which is fine. Like I've got so many games that I haven't played that I can play. The Last of Us, The Last of Us 2,
Yeah.
all of Uncharted. They're not PlayStation exclusives, but I could do Far Cry on them. There's 3 games that I am doing at the moment though. I started with Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart, or whatever the title is, the newest one, and my goodness, it looks amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it looks incredible. Like, and I'm coming from an RTX gaming rig. Not very many PC games that I've got use RTX or anything like that. Ratchet and Clank, and there's another game which I'll talk about in a second. They are using the PlayStation 5 features, and I love that you can go in there and there's 3 options you can pick for graphics. There's pretty, performance, and pretty, and I think that's basically make it look the best but 30 FPS. Then the middle one is give me 60 FPS, and then the other one is give me 60 FPS and make it pretty, but I think it drops the resolution. I don't think that really matters for me because I've got a 1080p TV. It's not 4K, never mind 8K. So I'm running it in the middle because I want frames more than prettiness, and it just looks really good. And I don't just mean it looks nice. Like, the textures, the surfaces don't look like textures. They look like surfaces. And this is the difference between something like, the original Ratchet and Clank game, where you can tell like buildings are like a 2 megabyte texture that's wrapped around and on repeat. Whereas now it's whatever it is. It's whatever they've done for the texturing. It's like proper surfacing and the light's refracting off it in a nice looking way. I'm not going to say realistic because there are many games that use RTX effects in a not great way. One of them is my favorite game, and it does it poorly. But it just looks really nice. And the second game that I've really been playing on the system is a game that I wasn't expecting. And did you know that the PlayStation 5 comes with a game for free,
Yeah, it does. It comes with the
Astro's Playground?
yeah.
And I have to tell you, I don't think the 360, sorry, I don't think Xbox and I don't think Nintendo, they don't do anything like this. And maybe this is the first time Sony have done this, but Astro's Playground is a brilliant game. Like, it looks amazing. Obviously, it's a tech demo. It uses everything on the console and everything on the controller.
Yeah, that's the
So
thing.
it uses the touchpad, it uses the microphone, it uses the triggers, because triggers are they're motorized,
Yes.
so it can give feedback for like braking and all that kind of stuff. And it's just so well done. And again, this is a game that is free and it looks amazing, but also it's actually a genuinely good game and it's really fun. It's just a simple 3D platformer, I think I would describe it. You just run through levels collecting things, and you're collecting old PlayStation artifacts like from all the different eras. You collect the consoles, you collect the controllers, the memory cards, the interfaces, all these, the cameras, the move controllers, all of these sort of things, and you just collect them, go around, and it just looks really good. It like genuinely, it looks better than I was expecting it to, especially for a console. And I think that's probably the benefit that console users get over PC games, is that if a game is designed for a specific console and they use those features, it's better for it. Whereas in a lot of PC games, they have to cater to such a wide variety of,
Users.
performance,
Yeah.
that they have to give you all those options. And sometimes you look at games and you're like, oh, which settings do I want for what I want? Because you can choose Ultra on a high performance gaming machine, but maybe you don't want to choose Ultra. Maybe you want to choose medium or high, so it looks good but has super high refresh rates. Whereas on the PlayStation 5, it basically says, this is what this setting does, this is what this setting does, and this is what this setting does. You've only got 3 to choose from, but all of them are good in their own way. And that's better than like spending hours like trying to work out which settings you do like on and off. I know with GTA 5 on the PC, for ages I had an issue with one thing in the graphics menu that was causing, even though both of my computers can play GTA 5 flawlessly, occasionally the frame rate would drop down to 30 FPS, but it wasn't the frame rate that was dropping, it was the game time. So everything in game was taking, it thought it was taking 60 FPS, but it was happening over 30 FPS. So something that would take 1 second was taking 2 seconds, if that makes sense. It was like time stretching it. And it took me forever to work out that it was the tessellation or something occlusions. It was one of those, and once I turned it off, it was fine. But it took me forever to work it out, and I thought the game was bugged, and I was like, why is no one going up in arms about it? And it's happened to me on, my old gaming system, my new gaming system, and both of them can play GTA 5 without problem. Whereas it, on the Xbox One and presumably on the Series and the PS5, it looks good and it doesn't have any of those issues. Other games I'm playing are, so those are the PS5 games I'm playing. From the PS4 era, we've got Spider-Man, the original one. Jen's currently playing through that. Literally, I think she's playing it as we speak. And I've played it a little bit, but I've not got that far through it. Like I've done the opening. I've not got to the open world bit yet. What I am doing is, in anticipation for the next Horizon game, is I'm trying to get used to playing Horizon with a controller. Why is that so
Really?
funny?
I don't know. It's just weird. It's like I'm trying to get used to it.
Well, I have to, because I can't play Horizon Zero Dawn with a controller.
Oh, so
When I played it on the PC, I played it with keyboard and mouse, and it's basically a different game. Have you played games on a console that you've also played on the PC,
Yeah.
or vice versa?
Yeah.
What games are they?
Oblivion.
And when you played it on the PC, what did you use?
I had to use mouse and keyboard.
And when you played it on the console, you used controller.
Controller. Yeah.
Did you have issues going from one to the other?
Not with that particular game. Like the mouse and keyboard's quite like the keys they assign are. You're like, okay, this makes sense. But on the controller, I remember it was difficult, but you got kind of used to it, because then it's like you can hotkey some buttons, so like to get magic spells and stuff.
Yeah, but this is sort of what I mean. Like, I mean, I've got Skyrim on the PC, and whenever I try to use Skyrim on the Xbox, I just feel clumsy. So on the PC, like your aim with the mouse is super clean and sharp, and it's accurate, and it's where you want it to be, and you can move and strafe with just one hand. On the
Yeah,
controller, to aim with a joystick in free aim is just horrendous. I
it's
feel
slower.
it's not that it's slower. It's not. It's just not going where you want it to go. It's sort of just like going around the place, and then like moving. Yeah. Well, I suppose moving. It is still. It's driving where it's one hand and on the computer and then two hands on the controller. But there are certain games where if you can play them on both, they're almost like two different games. It's like GTA. I've got it on the PC, but because it's got auto aim, I basically use the controller because you just can't drive with a keyboard or mouse, and there's no point switching between them. And to be honest, the gunplay with the controller isn't bad. But Horizon Zero Dawn, it's phenomenal to play it on keyboard and mouse, especially with the graphic horsepower that I have, where it's like 80 FPS on like super ultra. So the game looks really good. It's really fluid, and that's the key thing. It's really fluid movement, and I can spin around in like half a second. Well, a split second. Whereas on the controller, it takes forever to spin around. So I was fine. You know, I've been doing a new game. Like I started it yesterday or the day before, and I've been like literally scared in the game, and I'm really comfortable with this game. Like I know how to defeat the machines, but because I feel slightly blind because I can't look around as quickly as I can, like aware of my surroundings, and because I can't aim as quickly or as well as I could with the mouse, I just feel so much more vulnerable. And that's not really a problem because the game's designed for a controller, so there's skills that you can upgrade and they help you with that, like slowing down time, and you don't get auto aim in a real sense, but there is some sort of auto aim in the game. So there is, it is built for a controller, so it will be fine. I just need to get used to it and get my confidence level up. So I'm just trying to play through the game a bit before Forbidden West comes out, just so when I play it, I can enjoy it.
Yeah,
I know there are some PS5 games that do have keyboard and mouse support, and I don't know what that it fully entails yet. I'm kind of hoping Forbidden West might be one of those, but I mean, it might be so bad on the PS5 compared to a real PC that it's just not worth it. But
I was gonna ask, how did you find the SSDs? Did you notice any big difference?
it's difficult to answer that question because I don't really have anything to compare it with.
Well, your own like say, okay, say like,
Do I compare it with the Xbox One?
well, is there any game on you have on PC like Forbidden?
On Horizon, I've got on the PC.
Yeah, but that's a PS4, so I suspect that's not really using. It does use the SSD.
It does
on the
use the
PS5,
SSD,
but
so
it's
I
not-
can speak to it in that sense in a little bit. On the PC, I moved it from my SSD to the hard drive a couple of months back because I hadn't been playing it for ages, and I played it once on the hard drive, and I immediately noticed that fast travel took significantly longer. So I had to move it back to the SSD immediately. Fast travel, I haven't done a lot of fast travel in the game because at the moment it costs finite resources. I haven't noticed that they're so long that I'm noticing it. I've actually noticed loading times in other games more than in Horizon Zero Dawn. So in like Astro's Playground, some of the levels take longer to load in than you might think. And that might be because the game is actually pushing the console because of all the ray tracing and all the graphics and everything like that. So calling it a simple game is probably not nice to do. But that was a game where I noticed, oh, they aren't instant loading times. And even Spider-Man, the PS4 version, wasn't that one of the things they spoke about in the opening keynote, where the SSD was so fast that you could move from one side of the city to the other without any loading screens or without barely a loading screen? And I don't know how you define barely a loading screen, but 5 seconds of a loading screen is still a loading screen. 10 seconds is still a loading screen. But what I don't have is I've not played it on the PS4. And if it takes 30 seconds to a minute on the PS4 and we're down to 5 seconds, should I be complaining? Probably not.
Yeah, the thing is, with the PS4 loading, it's basically I don't know. It must be an emulator that they're using. So
It won't be an emulator at this stage.
Hmm?
Why do you think the PS4 isn't emulated on PS5?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it.
I think the PS4 and the PS5 are architecturally the same. They're basically a PC at this point, but you can't control the operating system on them. It's like the Xbox One and the Series. They basically they can both run each other's games at the moment, without massive game code differences. It's only the graphics output that's different.
Yeah.
Game consoles are becoming platforms in the same way that phones are. I don't think there's any emulation from a PS4 to a PS5 at all in any sense. The only thing you might get is if they're, things like automatic ray tracing, performance enhancing, that kind of stuff. We were talking about the AI stuff that the Xboxes were doing for older games. I don't know if the PlayStation will ever do something like that. But I think they are running natively. I think all PS4 games are running natively, and PS3 games are streamed from PS Now if you subscribe to it.
Do you not notice, like, if you're playing Ratchet and Clank, that you travel from one world to the next and it takes like 2 seconds? In terms of like a gameplay, you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm on the next level and it's like there's no loading at all. Have you not noticed that?
I think it speaks volume that I haven't noticed it.
So, but if you had that on PS4, that would be a loading screen.
And I think another thing that might come into it is PS5 optimized games will probably do better than PS4 games, just because basically if you know you got a 10-second loading screen, you design for it. If you know you got a 2-second loading screen, you design for it. So one problem I've had with going back to the PC, Skyrim on my PC has 3-second loading screens. And the loading screen is designed for an Xbox 360, where the loading screen back then would have been 30 seconds to a minute. So you can read the things it tells you on the screen. It says, to this blade heals you every time you do something. On my PC, I can barely finish a sentence and it's loaded. So I can't read those. And I've had that with quite a few PC games where I don't have enough time to read the loading screen text. And if you're designing a game for the PS5, you can design, instead of designing a 5-second loading screen, you basically have like a 2-second fade out and then a 2-second fade in. And that basically feels like there's no loading screen. Whereas if you're designing the same game for a PS4, you probably take out the fade in and the fade out, and you just have a 10-second loading screen with text on it. Does that all make sense? There are simple and clever ways that you can remove the feeling of a loading screen without actually removing them entirely. And I think that might be a benefit that a lot of PS5 games might use. However, on the flip side, games will get more complex and loading times will probably go up again as there's more to load in anyway. So
Yeah,
with technology, some things get better and some things stay the same. And that's not a problem. That's fine. Like Age of Empires 2 took ages to load on my Windows Millennium computer, in the same way that Age of Empires 4 takes a minute to load. And that's fine because Age of Empires 4 is a completely different game in terms of how much graphical stuff and units it's pulling in on the screen. Technology has come on, but also so has the game. So it is fine, as long as we're not looking at 5-minute loading screens.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, but the thing is, if you've never had a PS4, I think like The Witcher 3 was like a minute and a half. Some like the loading screens.
I mean, if I found a cross-platform game. Well, I got one. I could put Overcooked 2 on Xbox and on the PS5 and see the difference there, or find another game. It's difficult. I'm trying to think of games that aren't exclusives that are on Xbox Game Pass and on PS Now. Because
Cuphead.
Sorry?
Cuphead.
No, I don't think.
Minecraft?
I don't think that is. I'm thinking something like Tomb Raider. But Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah, that bit.
Tomb Raider is on
Yeah.
Game Pass, but it's not on PS Now. You've got Uncharted.
But the thing is, that's all streaming though, isn't it?
No,
Oh no.
not all of it. Game
not all
Pass
of
and
it,
PS
okay.
Now are basically identical at this point. Some games are streamed, some games are download, some games can be both.
But that's the. Well, that was that leak, wasn't it? A few weeks back about. I don't know if you saw that about. They're gonna have like different tiers.
Who is?
Sony, and they're gonna offer like backwards compatibility for like PS2 and PS3 games on the PS5.
I think
Then you have to
they are already there. I've seen PS3 games. I've definitely seen PS3. I don't know about PS2. I may have seen PS2 actually. There was some really old Ratchet and
There
Clank
probably
and
are.
Uncharted games. I think they are already there. PS3 definitely there, 100% for sure, because I launched. Oh, I think I launched God of War or something like that. One of the old God of Wars, and instead of downloading, it said setting up your stream, whatever. So those games are streaming. There might be PS2 games as well.
But the main thing is, are you happy with your purchase?
Yes, yes, and the wife is also very happy. Basically, I bought it for her, more for me. She'll probably use it more than I will, but definitely going to be playing Horizon Forbidden West on it. I've started Ratchet and Clank. I'm enjoying it, so I'll probably play that on there, and eventually get through the 2 Spider-Man games, I think.
If I was you, I would go down to like CEX and just look in the bargain bins for PS4 games and be like, oh yeah, I'll take that fiver. I'll take that. No, sorry, the PS4. Yeah, PS4 games.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 things with that though. Is that one, I hate discs. I just don't like discs, and 2, I have subscribed to PS Now, so we've got that for the year, and there's quite a lot of PS4 games on there.
Oh, okay, yeah. There you go.
Oh, God of War, yeah. So that's the other one I've got downloaded.
That's coming out next year, the sequel.
Yeah, well, we haven't even played the original, so. Well, you say the sequel. God of War's been around since the PS2, hasn't it? So we've played none of them.
Yeah. And the main thing is that you're using the HDMI cable that came with it.
Maybe.
I hope so.
Why?
Because, well,
It doesn't matter with my TV. It's a 1080.
it doesn't
it's a
matter with your
1080
TV.
60.
Eventually it will though. Like if you do upgrade to a 4K 120,
Mate, I can't afford
then
that. That's like grand and a half. I did look.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't understand you, man. You bought yourself a gaming PC last year.
Yeah.
You're buying yourself a PS5.
Yeah.
Eventually, you must be able to buy a TV.
Yes, but a 4K 120 is stupid money.
It's not that.
They are. I had a look at. They're over £1,000, and that's a lot of money to
You
spend
can
on
get
a
one
TV.
for £1,000. You can get one for £1,000.
Our cheapest was about 1,200, 1,300.
Those are probably the better ones, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. If you're going to spend £1,000 on a TV, and it's a high end TV. Oh, sorry, it's a high feature TV. Well, you might still be at the lower end of the market at that point. If you want a 4K 120, spending £1,000 isn't a wise thing. You want to spend £1,500 because that's where Sony and LG are, as opposed to like Hisense or Sharp.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can get an LG 4K 120, but the problem with that is it only has like one HDMI 2.1 slot.
Yeah, and this
So
is
then
the other.
if you have a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, you're gonna have to swap the cable.
Exactly,
over.
and this is the other problem I have with TVs in general, is that they don't have enough HDMI inputs. We already use one of the HDMI inputs for our audio receiver, HDMI eARC. So I've got, basically, the Apple TV it has its own, sound has got its own, and then everything else goes through a HDMI switch.
But to be honest, like for you right now, why not upgrade just to a standard 4K TV? Why even bother like with 120? You're still gonna see a massive difference because you got HDR, and
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that those are decisions that we have to make and might make, but as nice it is to have the console, one problem is that we have a good TV at the moment. It's a high-end TV, even though it's quite an old TV, but it's a good quality TV of its time. If we got a 4K 120 TV that we could afford, it would be at the lower end, and in some ways it would be worse than the TV we got now.
I doubt that, mate.
It's not just about how the TV looks. There's so much more about TV. It's what's the interface like? How long does it take to turn on? Because all TVs are smart TVs these days. What's the remote control like? Does it work with HDMI control? So, I mean, in my ideal world, I'm thinking I might restrict myself to a Sony TV because we have a Sony soundbar, and I'm thinking probably best to stick with a single brand for the TV and for the speakers. Oh, because here's the crazy thing, right? So the PlayStation 5, I've got 5.1 surround going through it. So it goes through the TV before it hits the audio receiver. The Xbox One has no idea. All it can do is stereo. And I'm like, what? You're connected via HDMI to the TV. The TV is connected via HDMI to the audio receiver. Why can you not do full surround? It just drives me bananas. when everything else can. The Apple TV can, the HDMI, the PS5 can, the Switch can probably do it. I've never tested it, but the Switch can probably do surround sound.
I don't think so. It only supports stereo.
That's fine, because if it only supports stereo, then it's giving what it's supposed to do. For some reason, the Xbox One is not doing surround sound when everything else is.
I used to have an old system set up for the Xbox One, and I use I know it's not the best way to set up surround sound, but I used the optical cable.
What do you mean it's not the best way? That is basically the best way.
Well, you should use HDMI.
Why should you use HDMI?
Because then you're missing out on, say, you have a surround system that supports DTS HD.
Well, you do now, but you just said you had an old one.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I just use optical, because that was the only way to connect it. But
Yeah, I mean, optical...
for the viewers,
apart from the
for the viewers out there, like if they have a system, a 5.1 system, like a modern 5.1 system, they're going to use EARC or...
Yeah, I mean,
through
optical
HDMI.
has its advantages, and I kind of wish I was using optical. One of which was, and obviously this isn't just optical, but when I was plugging everything into the HDMI switch, there was sparks, because I now have 5 or 6 different systems electrically connected to each other. So if one of them surges, it could take all of them out. You know, TV, basically, like, there's 6 things on the HDMI switch plus the soundbar. One of them goes out, it could take it. You know, goes down the wrong cable, could take them all out. So having a non-electrical link between them would be nice. I was genuinely thinking, I wonder how expensive it would be to get 8 or 9 optical HDMI cables, because it's genuinely a concern. They're already connected via power cables, and now they're all connected to each other via HDMI cables. But the advantage of HDMI is obviously, yeah, if you're going more than 5.1 and you know you've got Dolby Atmos or DTS or whatever the new ones are, the big advantage over all of that is HDMI control. So I now fixed. We've had an Apple TV for the last year, and it's been driving me insane because I couldn't use it to control the volume on the TV. And well, it could control the TV volume, but it wouldn't control the audio receiver. And it turned out that I was using a really crappy HDMI cable. I'm so sorry. When I bought the
I did
yeah
that.
when I bought the PS3 at a car boot car boot sale, it came with an HDMI cable, and I just threw it in a box. And when I got the Apple TV, it didn't come with an HDMI cable, because obviously not, you know, Apple being Apple. So I used that one because it might have already been plugged in, or I just grabbed it out of the box first. And I think it might be an HDMI 1 cable, and it doesn't include HDMI control. And all I had to do was swap it with a more modern HDMI cable, and now I've gone from 3 remotes down to 1 and the HDMI switch. So that's been really nice. Oh, you know what else the Xbox One can't do? It can't change the TV input to itself. So the Xbox One will turn the TV on and it will turn the TV off, but it won't turn the HDMI input from any input to the input that it's on. So whenever I want to use I keep saying it HDMI. Whenever I want to use the Xbox, I turn the switch on, because the switch will grab the TV input, and if you don't press any other buttons, it will turn itself off on its own, and that's how I turn the Xbox on. It's crazy, but that's how it works. I think Microsoft really need to do something with HDMI control, because the options are do nothing or toggle. And toggle, to me, and in testing, seems to be do whatever state the TV and soundbar is on and flip it. So if you turn the Xbox on and the TV is on, it will turn the TV off. And then you get this situation where it's turning the TV on, but turning the sound system off, or reverse. And it's just ludicrous. It's like, have the HDMI control only send this one control, turn on, and then send the other control, change input. Don't worry about turning things off. I'll turn things off with the Apple TV remote. It's fine. But yeah.
Man, all this talk about TV and TV. I was thinking about. Did you manage to watch that Xbox documentary?
Did I manage to watch 6 hours of Xbox stuff? No.
I did.
I've downloaded it, but I've not watched it.
It's on YouTube. It's free.
I know it's on YouTube, but they might get rid of it one day. So I just downloaded it for posterity.
It was good. It was good. I didn't watch all every episode. I only watched like the episodes that are kind of like the big ones, like the the original Xbox, how it all started up, and
The titles were quite intriguing. It seemed as if they were quite willing to talk negative, not negatively,
yeah,
but they were
yeah.
happy to talk about the negatives of the Xbox. So
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It was like what the thing is that YouTube is a big environment of like getting your voice heard, and you kind of like as a gamer, you know what the situation is at a certain point in time, what everyone's thinking, and then to hear that they're like, oh, they actually listen to that, and they're like, yeah, we know we fucked up there. But yeah, it was kind of like the Red Ring of Death. They went through that, and they were like, man, we don't know what's wrong with it, and we're trying to figure out. And we got so many of these Xboxes, and we got loads of them in the warehouse as well. And then eventually they were just like, just stop it, stop selling until we figure this out. And then they managed to figure out, and they were like, how much is it going to cost to fix all of these Xboxes that are out there? And he's like, I need. He went to some higher up. He's like, I need $1 billion. He's like, just do it, do it. And then the other thing was, after that, but even then they were like, we were still really successful with the 360. Like people still forgave them because it was such an awesome product. And then they were like, we really messed up on the Xbox One launch with the Kinect.
yes, that was the other one. Yeah. So the two titles that stuck out to me were the Red Ring of Death and TV or Not to Be. And reading them, you know
Yeah,
exactly what they're talking about. And the 360 was such a great console. It was a fantastic console. I had the black glossy one, so that was the one that came with a 200 gig hard drive. It was the second gen in that sort of like new shape, but it still had a disk drive and everything. And that thing has been flawless. Like, we still have it now. Like 12 years later, 9 years later.
I still got the. I don't use it, but I still got the component. They had the first 360s were like components. They only had a component, not no HDMI.
Yeah, so I had such a weird setup with my 360. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what connections I was using, but I basically went from whatever the Xbox was outputting to VGA.
Yeah.
So I think I was using probably component to VGA adapter because I
Oh
don't think
man.
I had HDMI to VGA. No, I was doing HDMI because I tell you what I was doing. I was doing that weird thing where I was using both outputs on the Xbox. So I went HDMI to VGA via an adapter, but obviously because I was using a very old PC monitor, it was
Yeah.
such an old PC monitor that the VGA cable was physically attached to the monitor. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
And a bit like the monitor you got in with you right now. It was literally like one of those. But obviously there was no audio coming out of the HDMI because this was before the adapters had audio jacks on them. So I used not the component one because I didn't want to destroy that one, but the one that came in the box, the AV out. I chopped off the HDMI cover so that I could plug it in, and then I used the red and white to get the sound out. Such a janky way of doing it until I got a little TV a couple of years later, and we still got the controllers as well. So literally, it's only recently that one of the buttons on the controllers has sort of like stopped working, and I might be able to just open it up and remove whatever's stopping it from working, or maybe a rubber spring sort of thing has come loose. It's a shame though because I always really like the 360 controllers, and I can feel the joysticks are getting a bit worn down. I can feel the metal spike in the middle, which is a bit of a shame. But we use those as PC controllers now that we don't really use the 360 because obviously everything's on the Xbox One now. They still get a reasonable amount of use. In fact, I was using them only 2 days ago. Because Jen was playing Overcooked on the PC, I was playing Overcooked on the PC. Jen was on the Xbox, I was on the PC, and we were playing with someone across town because it was New Year's Eve and the COVID is still around, so we were socially distanced.
Yeah. No. That 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 documentary is quite good because they went like TV, and they were like, what? because their big push was like, oh, everything's gonna be TV, and they saw the Wii, and the Wii was doing really well, so they were like, oh, we got to get these casual gamers and get the Kinect, and then the big thing was it's not just a game console, it's gonna be your media hub. It's gonna do everything.
I don't disagree with anything that they did. I just disagree with how the Kinect could have been fine, but forcing it upon people made it, it made it a tough thing to swallow, and it made everything like 150 quid more expensive than it needed to be. It's like my Xbox One, it has this stupid HDMI in, and it's like, what's the point? Because it adds delay, and it could have been good, but it's not that great. But then the Xboxes were basically the intro to like smart TV and TV sticks. Because back on the 360, I remember having Netflix and Spotify and those sort of apps on there. Even though it was annoying that you had to pay Xbox Gold just to use Spotify, that's a pain in the backside. But that was probably the first way most people got Netflix or those sort of things onto their TV. I mean, even the Wii had Netflix, didn't it?
I think it did eventually, but Xbox.
No, it did. It had if you wanted to use Netflix on the Wii, I think you had to use a game disc which had the Netflix application on it, and then I guess it streamed the movie over the internet because they had internet connection, and that was very strange.
The max is 480p. That would look terrible.
Yeah, well, at least at least you could do it in component.
Yeah, they did say that. Like they had a partnership with Netflix, and that was like the first time they started using streaming because they were mainly a rental service at first.
Do you know what? I don't know how or why, but my and I haven't changed it because for some reason I like it. But my Netflix bookmark on my desktop computer is www.netflix.com/Wii Home. So on my computer, I use Wii Home as my Netflix bookmark, but it works. It still works. It still goes to Netflix, and it's great. I just like to have it there because it reminds me of the old times. But the reason I was bringing that up is that when I was setting up the PS5, do you know what it offered? It said, "Oh, do you want to install Disney and Spotify and Netflix and Amazon Prime?" And do you know, I thought to myself, I don't think I'm going to use a single one of these apps because we've got Fire TV, we've got Apple TV. We just don't need any of these. Like, how many people are still using game consoles for watching media? Because, well, for one, when they're on, they use a lot more power than like the Fire Stick would. And Fire Sticks are so cheap; they're like 25 quid on sale. They're so cheap and so easy to get, and they're cheaper than buying the remote for the PS5 or the Xbox One. I say no one. I'm sure teenagers are, but no one wants to use an Xbox controller to control Netflix. The most annoying thing is that they go to sleep. I remember using we were watching something on DVD, so we used the Xbox to watch the DVD, and it's like you want to pause, but first you have to wake up the controller, then you have to bring up the interface, then you have to find the pause button in the interface, scroll to it, and then hit it. There's there's nothing like having an actual pause button. I'm sure people are doing it, but it just seems like such a niche use case now compared to Roku and Fire TV and everything like that.
The big thing for the PS5 is it doesn't. I don't think it supports Dolby Atmos.
I'm pretty sure it does.
That
was the when I was going through the stuff for the Xbox. It's the Xbox that does. Because I remember seeing all these weird things for the Xbox in the surround sound stuff, and it was like, oh, you can't do this because your TV doesn't support it. It's like, yeah, just give me some surround sound. No, I don't know what the PlayStation supports because it just did it automatically without me having to do anything.
Fair enough.
Still upset about that.
Oh, apparently it doesn't support Dolby Atmos. So if you're a sound guy,
does it matter?
Oh, okay.
Are games in Dolby Atmos?
There are some on the Xbox. Yeah, you can play some like Gears of War 5 on Series X and Series S on Dolby Atmos, and it even uses Dolby Vision. So that's the way we're heading, where it's going to be like it's all about 4K HDR, and the surround sound. That's going to be like the ultimate. But I think PlayStation they're not really aiming for surround sound because they want you to use the headphones.
I suppose so, but the headphones are 7.1, so
They made a big thing about that, didn't they, before the release?
Yeah, their headphones are 7.1, and even though we didn't get the Sony ones, the ones that came in the bundle, they're 7.1 as well. Supposedly, like I said, I'm not using them in that way, so I don't really know, nor do I care. But at the same point, the PlayStation does do PSVR, so
Oh
even
yeah, that's
without
another thing I wanted.
even without Atmos support, surround sound is still really useful in that sort of regard. So,
Would you get PSVR 2?
so I looked into what it would take to get the current PSVR working on the PlayStation 5, and you can do it, but you need to get something from Sony, and I'm not sure if I'm eligible because I don't have a PS4.
Don't do it, dude.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for the VR2 kit to come out, and I know it's going to be too much money, but I really enjoyed the PSVR, the original one, on the PlayStation 4, in the games that I tried it in.
Really?
But that's the thing. I enjoyed the games that I tried it in.
What games were they?
Just the demo games. I'm not joking. Sony seemed to do really well with their demo games, and I really enjoyed it. So I really hope that sometime soon they will do the PlayStation 5 PSVR, and that there will be some good games for it, because I really want to use it. I really want to try it.
Yeah, I think I told you I tried Star Wars Squadrons on PSVR, and I've also got it on my gaming PC. And hands down, I would always play it on the gaming PC because I just could not concentrate. I could not physically really like.
On the PC, is that without VR?
Oh yeah, without VR.
Okay. So VR on the PlayStation, but not VR on the PC.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I was playing on VR and it was just so like it was blurry and I just couldn't tell what was what and I couldn't really concentrate on what I'm actually shooting at most of the time. I was just like.
So I know the PSVR isn't the highest performant VR headset out there, but it's not blurry.
For me, I could not like compared to the image quality compared to like playing it on a normal piece, like probably even on the play. Like, I haven't even tried it.
I know, but on one hand, I get what you're saying, but at the other end, it's not that bad. It's not like the Oculus, the dev kit Oculus Rift was. That was like 400p. The PSVR is better than that.
Yeah, I remember Resident Evil 7 being good though. Like I should give that another try in VR.
I'm gonna have a look at the specs. PSVR screen spec.
I think it's like 800.
It's a 1080p. It's 1080p. But I'm guessing that's over the both eyes as opposed to, because it's 5.7 inches. Whereas normally they tell you the screen
thing
resolution
is, like,
per eye.
The thing is with the PlayStation is they do support it, but they're not supporting it like VR. They are one of the main ones that, but compared to like the Oculus Quest and the HTC Vive, you're better off like getting for me, a VR headset for PC.
Yeah, but I think the PSVR is a lot cheaper than any of the PC ones at the moment.
It'd probably be a
isn't it?
similar price to the Quest 2. Is it Quest 2?
I think at the moment the PSVR is the cheapest way to get into VR if you already have the hardware, as in if you already have a PS4 Pro. Obviously the markets change and things coming out. But the Quest, who makes the Quest? Is that Oculus?
Facebook, isn't it?
Facebook. Yeah, I'm never going to get the Quest.
Because of Facebook.
I'm never going to get a Facebook VR thing. Not because of Facebook, but because you have to use it with an account.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's like, yeah, okay, I do have a Facebook account, but I don't want to link hardware to that account. There's no need for it.
And it was so funny, like, it was a few months back when Facebook went down and people couldn't access they couldn't play their Quest because they were like,
exactly. And it's like,
what the hell?
I don't like the idea of it. I know why Facebook wants it. Facebook have changed their name, their company name. Do you know that?
Yeah, they did. They changed it to.
They've changed it to Meta. So Facebook have changed their name. You know, in 10 years' time, they're basically just trying to become Second Life, second life, and that's why they've got Oculus. That's why they've changed their name. Yeah, for me, it's either the stupidly expensive one that Steam have teamed up with. Which one's that? That's the one that begins with H.
HTC Vive.
That's the one, HTC Vive. So it's either that one or PSVR. Microsoft aren't doing anything because they bowed out of the HoloLens, so there's probably nothing going on there.
Yeah, I don't think
Maybe Apple's doing something, but that's only going to be iOS games. It's not going to be desktop PC games or anything like that. So it's basically PSVR or HTC Vive.
But hopefully, like for yourself as well, like if you did get a VR2, PSVR2, then you could always play some of the PS4 VR games as well. So you always got that, and they should be quite cheap. Or you got that, well, depending if you still got that service, PlayStation Now, and there's some games on there.
To be honest, PS Now is so cheap. Not so cheap. I like that you can pay annually because it means you don't have to worry about the monthly payments, and it costs the same amount per year than a single game does. So it's like 50 quid for the year. It's like, pay it, don't worry about it. Whereas Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is the same thing, it's £12 a month. Well, no, they're not. They aren't the same thing actually. There is slightly subtle differences, but
Would you say like Game Pass offers the newer games?
I haven't noticed the same games on both systems that much. So things like small games, Overcooked 2 is on both of them. You might find things like, well, Gang Beasts isn't. Most of the games seem to be exclusive on one or the other.
Would you have the new GTA series on PlayStation Now?
Hmm.
Like games like that, games that have just come out, and you don't.
I feel like that's going to fall under the category of games that I buy twice.
Really?
Yeah. I fully expect that Horizon Forbidden West, I will pay for it twice. So we'll get it on the PlayStation, and then eventually we'll get it on the on the PC. We bought Red Dead just before Christmas for the PC. Finally,
Red Dead 2.
So we own Red Dead. Yeah, Red Dead 2. So we got it on the Xbox, and now we got it on the PC.
You played it?
I have played it. I played it 3 times.
Oh, what did you play? Oh, on the Xbox. Oh, okay, yeah.
On the Xbox One. So now I've got it on the PC. I can do 1080, 120, and RTX. Because that's the only game that I own on the PC that can do RTX. Because there's not that many PC games that do RTX at the moment. Not too many. Not too many that I want. I think the biggest one is like Doom, but I'm not too interested in that. So you did buy a PS5. What did you buy a PS5 for?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. You were in a queue. You were in like 2 different. You were.
I didn't buy one.
I thought you bought a PS5.
Are you crazy?
You were texting me a few weeks ago saying you were in a queue.
Yeah, I was. My brother wanted one, and I was trying to see if I could get one, but I was like, oh, you know what? This is too much of a hassle. And I was in a queue for like 30 minutes, and then I opened another tab, and I think I was actually on Curry's, and then I tried Very, and then I was just like, oh, you know what? I'm giving up. But then like the other day, they've had like loads of Xbox One Series X. Like at Argos and stuff like that. They had one the other day at like Luton, so you could go and pick it up, click and collect.
Yeah, that's the shame is that I wanted when we did order it, I wanted to try and get it for like in-store pickup, but they were online only.
But I was like, the thing is, I think in general, I'm just gonna wait for like a slim version. To be honest, like I would prefer an Xbox Series X, but
sorry, that I think you just reminded me that was the thing that I was kind of wanting to talk about. So again, you need to see
how big this.
You
thing
need to
is.
go and look. You need to go look at one. Why don't you come around tomorrow? Come around tomorrow. You can come and have a look at it. What do you think the PS5 Slim is going to be? Because I think it's going to be the current PS5 with basically no changes.
What do you mean? Basically, it's going to be a slimmed down version, mate.
Yeah,
it's going to be cut in half.
No, it's not. Well, you say that, but how much slimmer have the previous generation consoles been from the originals? I mean, the Xbox One Slim was a centimetre smaller than the Xbox One.
Oh, come on, man. That VCR was fucking atrocious.
Oh, it looks a lot better, but it's not massively smaller. And so what I think you're going to get from the PS5 Slim is something that looks a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But the reason it's going to be smaller is because the current one has flares and it's curved. And all you've got to do, once you take those off, it's actually already quite small. It's not huge. You only need to make the internals a little bit smaller, that when you take off the flares and you make it a flat box, it's going to look so small and tiny. And that's like my theory is that the PS5 Slim, if you took the internals of the Slim and the current PS5, there'll be a 10% difference, 20% difference. but the external case will be massively smaller, and they will call it the Slim because it is technically slimmer, but it's not that much slimmer.
Would you swap it in? Would you swap your current PS5 to then buy
Why would I do that?
space?
We don't need space. It's not taking up any more. It's not taking up space that would be used by anything else. Because it's in a gaming cabinet which has 6 slots, and each slot has its own. Like the GameCube has its own slots, and the GameCube is tiny. You could fit 3 GameCubes where a PS5 would go.
Why would you have a GameCube when you can just get yourself a Wii?
Because we already have a GameCube and we don't have a Wii. Although having said
you
that,
do
I did.
actually, because you tried to offer me one. Remember?
That was donkeys years ago,
Oh,
and that
okay.
was my parents.
Oh, fair enough.
The funny thing is, funny you say that, because I bought an HDMI adapter for the GameCube, which cost as much as a used Wii would have cost.
No, don't. See, that's the thing. Like
Because I forgot that the Wii has GameCube controller inputs on the back.
yeah, but the thing is
But how do you play GameCube games on the Wii? Because the Nintendo Store is no longer available.
Well, you need the physical discs, mate.
You can't put GameCube discs in a full-size slot loader.
You can. You just put it on the side, and it loads. Yeah, it will detect it as a GameCube game, and then and you just
Really?
yeah.
Everything
But
I know
the annoying
about
thing is, you have. I don't know if it's true now, but I remember back in the day, you have to like connect the Wii remote, right, and it comes up, and then you click like start, and then you got your GameCube controller. So then you have to like turn off the Wii remote because you don't want you don't use your Wii for the GameCube. You can connect your GameCube controller. But it's like with some games like Mario Kart 7, is it Mario Kart? One of the Mario Karts, you can play with the GameCube controller, but then you have to first connect your Wii to then go to the start menu to start the game, and then you disconnect. It's really annoying. It's like, what?
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. Everything I know about slot loading disk drives is that you don't put anything other than a full-size CD in it, a full-size disc. And I guess Nintendo is Nintendo. They're making their own proprietary hardware, so obviously they can build something in there to cater to GameCube discs. But I would never have done that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird doing it. Like you don't know how to slot it, like how to put it in. It just.
But then I'd have needed
sucks
to.
it up, though.
But if I wanted to put the GameCube through HDMI, I'd have had to get an adapter for that anyway.
What for the Wii?
Because our TV doesn't have component. Well, it has component, but the GameCube, I don't know words. The component input on our TV is through an adapter, and that adapter is stupid and it doesn't work. So it'd be going through HDMI.
Most of the HDMI adapters for the Wii are pretty terrible.
Which is why you get the expensive one. The one I got was custom made, so I bought it, and it took them a month to ship it because they made it when I ordered it. It's they had it on LTT. It's the one on LTT. They had the multiple one in where it's got like all the inputs, but that was like £200 or £300.
I think we got kind of screwed over, in terms of because I think the Americans, the NTS
Retro gaming cables. That's where I got it from. Sorry, we got screwed over.
What is it? What's that format? NTSC? Is it NTSC?
NTSC and PAL, yeah.
So they got 480p. We just got like, I think we got 480i or 576i. We didn't get anything like that. Was our. So like you can't. Even if you're always gonna. It's the inferior version. Then like. But if you put it on the Wii, you can even run like, I think you can do it on the GameCube. You can force it to like run at 480p or whatever higher resolution, but you have to like hack your GameCube and hack your Wii. And I think on the Wii U you can even like hack it to play it like 1080p.
Hang on, PAL is better than NTSC.
No.
So why was it worse? Why was it worse on the game? On the
frame
GameCube?
rate, the power is like 50 hertz for starters.
Yeah.
So you're getting slower resolution.
But you can't change that because that's the
No.
power grid.
No, you can't. But you can. No, it's definitely 480i. It's definitely 480i on the GameCube in the PAL regions. It's definitely. But in America, you can play at 480p. So they're getting the benefit. So then it's like you're getting these cables. You're not really seeing too much of a benefit because you're always going to be stuck at that resolution. It's not like the Xbox where the Xbox original is like you can get component cables, and it can go all the way up to 1080i. Some of the games you can play at 1080i and 720p. Well, there you go. Well, it's a big thing though. Like it makes a massive difference. And if you're better off buying yourself either a Wii or a Wii U. Wii U would be better, and then you could play Wii and GameCube. You can like hack it to. I think it's called It's like a hack, because what it does it loads up a virtual Wii environment on your Wii U, so it's basically a Wii, and then you can play. And then you can hack that environment with the homebrew channel, and then play like GameCube games on it as well.
I'll tell you what, a nice and simple GameCube with a HDMI adapter strapped to the back looks just fine. It looks as good as it's ever going to look.
Well, to be honest, I'm not really that bothered, no.
Because that's the thing, the best thing to do is to just plug it into an old CRT, but we ain't got the room for it.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing. That's probably the best thing anyway. It's better than trying to upscale
Exactly, and that's what I keep trying to say to Jen. It's like, look past the pixels and just try and enjoy the game.
No,
like, even if you have you ever loaded up,
it looks better on
exactly.
CRT.
If you load up some games on the PC, you can, like, if you put Simpsons Hit and Run, you can run it at 1080p, but the textures are still
Terrible
for
480p.
480p or something.
Yeah.
So you've got more pixels, but nothing looks better. It just looks it looks a bit sharper, but
That's the thing. Like like consoles like PS2 and GameCube were made for like CRTs.
they're never going to look good.
Even like I was saying earlier about my 360 that supported component. That was like a high feature back in the day because everyone's still on CRT.
Yeah. Most people who are using a Nintendo Wii, because a Nintendo Wii is still really popular to this day, 80% of them, maybe even higher than 80%, are using the composite cable instead of component. And that's even worse than component. So it's like, yeah.
You should be using Dolphin.
How do you connect a Wii to a TV with a Dolphin? That seems rather cruel. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please feel free to leave a comment below, to like the video, subscribe to our channel, or subscribe to our podcast in your app of choice. Goodbye.